and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. Join us for interviews, updates and chat with artists, influencers and those that manufacture the gear that we love. Hello and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the guys at the Guitar Show UK. I am looking at my very good friend Jason on screen. How are you, Jason?
All right, mate. How are you?
Well, apart from the fact I can't say friend, I'm absolutely fine. First question, because I've had loads of snow today. Have you had snow?
No, none at all.
Right. Okay, fine. Must just be me then.
In fact, it's been quite mild.
Has it? Quite mild?
Quite mild for the time of year.
All right, okay. Well, we'll ask our guest the same question, because tonight we have got with us Aziz Ibrahim. Aziz, how are you?
I'm not very well, thank you. I'm not going to do the British thing.
All right, okay.
The stiff upper lip and all that. No, it's terrible. Well, you know,
Sorry,
I don't even want to say the words. I have to spit every time I use any words, begins with an L, this particular one. And the state of everyone. State of me. Well, I was a young man before this. I've got this beard now. I've lost my eyesight. Since March, my eyesight's gone downhill. My skin's terrible. Don't see any sun. Go out once a day, on a long walk. Anywhere between, I don't know, not very far, but between 4 and 10 miles or something like that.
That's quite far.
That's all right.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not doing too badly then.
No, you're doing really well. I have a run one day and a walk on the other, and I walk up between about 4 and 6. So if you're getting up to 10, that's
10.
That's more than a walk. That.
I mean, it was through that blizzard we had a few days ago. I took the dog for a walk, and I had to carry the dog back. It was too far for the dog. I did. I tucked him in my jacket, and just his little head was popped out like that.
Oh, I'm starting to regret just asking you how you were. I really.
Sorry.
I should have started with.
I'm an expert digresser.
You are.
I'm a professor of digression.
So, have you had snow? You must have had snow. You're not that far from me.
Yeah. I've had a lot of snow. I mean, it depends what level I'm walking to. If I'm walking up, because I'm here with my partner in Ramsbottom.
Right.
In the Ramsbottom. And it's right near the Peel Monument,
Right.
The Bobbies, wooden tops.
Yeah.
The Peel Monument's behind us. And obviously the further you get up, then you get snow and so forth. And the lower, it's more kind of just very hard soil. Yeah. Yeah.
But, so how long have you been there? Because last time we hooked up, you were in Manchester.
I've been back. Well, I'm still Manchester. This is Greater Manchester.
Yeah, but you were more central, weren't you?
Yeah, I'm still central, but I'd been to and froing, but talking about relationships, you kind of. I spend more time here than I do in my other place.
Yeah. So, for those who don't know,
moving on swiftly from my personal life.
Yes. Well, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to move slightly on there. I was going to, and I'm desperately trying not to ask you how you are because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again. So, I mean, we first met 4 or 5 years ago now. I don't
so.
know. I don't know how long you and Jace have known each other.
Probably about 10.
Long time.
Yeah, long time.
Long time, GI. Yeah. So, it was your guitar shows, wasn't it, Jason?
Yeah.
From the start, really.
I think it was. I think you were a performer on the first one. Was he on the Rotor Sound stand?
I did the Rotor Sound, yeah. And then there was another time as well.
Was it PRS?
Or maybe I just attended. I can't remember. Sometimes it was in between. Yeah, that's right. When you came and turned me down, I remember now.
Yeah, that was on the Rotor Sound stand. I remember that as well.
All manner of skeletons are coming out tonight, aren't
they? The noise police, the audio police turning up. Yeah. And it was funny because I remember that distinctly. I wasn't used to doing guitar shows or calling it demonstrations, but sometimes it's just appearances, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I was there under the guise of an appearance, but for Rotor Sound, and I turned up with an old Marshall JTM 45 and two 1x12s, which had Alnico golds in them, Celestian golds. So they're 50 watt each,
Yeah.
Or they're 30 watts, I can't remember, but they're damn good. So I'd just put it, that kind of Marshall thing where you just set the volume and turn it up a little bit. The volume just goes. But it was a clean. I'd used pedals. I brought a few pedals. Oh, there was a Rotor Sound pedals because he'd launched.
That was right.
Launching the whole range of those. It's a good job I'm sat by my pedal supply, which is all over the floor now. So.
Yeah, didn't he do like a...
Jason enticed me with his reissue of the old Fuzz.
Yeah.
Rotor Sound used to do. And then he gave me the others as well in the series. They're all like...
They're all massive, aren't they?
And I'd set up and I'd use that for sounds, and I plugged into the Plexi, that JTM 45, and then it was just the loudest thing in the whole room, wasn't it, Jason?
It was, yeah.
It kept going, and it was because... I'm not a demonstrator, and you know how it is in guitar shows. People tend to have these kind of a lot of waspy sounds, and the kind of scooped and the mid range. And I'm a live musician. Bands are always playing, and my sound is always about projection and body, and about presence. In a band situation, how do you get your guitar heard? It's not that kind of fade in the background or sit in a pocket as a session musician. It's the kind of take up that kind of space, be present. The guitar is, it's got to carry the songs. It's the guitar's carrying the band on the music. And I think that's what it was, Jason. I just kind of was in that kind of state of mind. So the choice of amp and the speakers and everything was about, I play a single note and everybody will hear it.
And everybody did.
Yeah, everybody did. Yeah. Hey, blame the EL84s, not me.
So you're one of those people that are fairly unique in the fact that a lot of people know you, but they know you for a lot of different reasons. And what I mean by that is, I know.
Quickly,
I'll move on.
To the point.
I'll move on. But what I mean by that is, so I came across you because of my Marillion and Steve Hogarth connection. So I came across you because of the H band. But then a lot of people will have heard you first time round because of the Stone Roses thing. But then you've got the Simply Red thing, which was before that, wasn't it? So it's
a long time before.
Yeah.
Well, not a long time. Sorry, that was a decade before. It was 1987. I joined Simply Red, and I think the last shows were in '88 at the festival in Brazil.
Yeah,
and Sao Paulo. Yeah, so it was a long time. But I mean, the Roses, that era, the Manchester band thing, or I suppose Simply Red is a Manchester band anyway, but that was the 80s, and the Roses was mid to late 90s, and then the Ian Brown era was into the noughties, from the 90s. But prior to that, that's a very small segment, actually. So, I mean, through the early 80s, the bands that, I was playing in were like Rebel MC. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, the baseball. I've still got the original baseball cap and Tashini tracksuit I had at the time. And, I was a b-boy then. I had my bit of cardboard and trying to, break dance. Failed miserably. I was playing in Rebel MC, yeah. And then from that, I started working with the great late Dennis Brown, reggae superstar, and Barrington Levy, Freddie McGregor, Errol Dunkley. I got a long decades and decades of history of reggae. Actually, the roots of my playing comes from reggae music, back to my Manchester band, Fourth Generation, and Ertman, who taught me everything about rhythm, really. That's what, I'm a kind of player, you give me one string to a couple of strings, and that's all I need on a guitar to play. And it's the basis of my playing is rhythm. And it comes from the reggae bands that I played for and recorded with for many, many years. But there's a lot of stuff before Simply Red and the Roses. You know, even Errol Brown, Hot Chocolate, Asia. You know, I recorded one album when I joined Asia. Asia Arena was the album I did. Just didn't have the hair and that blue jewellery. I didn't have the pointy shoes. You've got some of those, haven't you, Hans?
I'm not going there. But you see, there's the thing, and that's what I meant about the question. I didn't know that. You know, I've known you a while. You know, and we've nattered on at length about various things, and I didn't know anything about the reggae stuff.
Right. I mean, that's just the nature of the industry or the music business and living in Manchester. So Manchester's always been quick to promote, always, you know, pushed the indie aspects. Or we'll call it indie, but that whole Manchester scene is always promoted the most, as is the late Tony Wilson and Factory Records. And at that time for me, I never even went to the Hacienda. I was going to blues and soul all-nighters, all-dayers. I was going to blues in Moss Side and Hume because I was playing the reggae bands. I was playing a lot of soul bands. Originally, when I was in a band called The Fifth of Heaven with the late Denise Johnson, one of my oldest and best friends who died recently, who was in Primal Scream, and I actually worked with many people. But, you know, the band we were in, Fifth of Heaven, we were doing support tours for Alexander O'Neill, Freddie Jackson, Maze. So it was all the old great soul acts of the 80s. And we were on these support tours. And I joined Simply Red after that. And that's why I left that band. But that was an era and a chapter of my kind of soul, my slick soul kind of era. Looking like Atlantic Star and all the dance moves. Not.
Have you got a shiny suit somewhere?
I have, yeah. There's a few pictures with Errol Brown with a suit that I'd never ever wear again.
I don't need to Google that now.
There's a few of those, yeah.
So so there's the reggae thing which morphs into the soul thing. That's the entry into the Simply Red. You know, and those couple of years with was it say a couple of years you spent.
Yeah, I mean, they both played a part because, I mean, I remember Hucknall's kind of tastes were reggae big time because he bought that back catalogue, didn't he, of Burning Spear and stuff. And then also it was kind of Keith Richards orientated, and then on top of that, he was, you know, his own music, the Simply Red music was slick soul, really, based on Motown, R&B, I would have said. Early R&B, and I just had those backgrounds. You know, they were like second nature to me. It wasn't anything new. The only thing that probably I struggled with were the aspects of jazz. Really, you know, I can't read or write music in that sense, and a jazz player, I'm not. I'm a blagger. You know, I could blag a few jazz chords and play a sneaky little rhythm or whatever. And because of my kind of Indian classical kind of influences, I can work in odd time signatures. And it's probably the reason why I've worked with bands like, with Steve Hogarth and Marillion and Richard Barbieri and JBK, all the prog rock and experimental music. And the last thing was Stephen Wilson touring Grace for Drowning, you know, because I had that kind of odd time signature background through Indian or South Asian related music and Indian classical and so forth. It's in the blood, man.
So because I'm going to keep trying to bring it back onto the timeline. So Simply Red, you do the Simply Red thing,
yeah,
and then you say there's a gap between that and the Stone Roses. So what's happening between Simply Red?
There was a gap. It wasn't really a gap. I mean, that interval between Simply Red and the Roses was filled with Rebel MC, Errol Brown,
right,
Ruby Turner, and Asia.
Yeah.
So I think Asia was the last thing. And then at that time, I wasn't doing like a lot of musicians, you know, struggling financially, not very good at accounts. So, and yeah, so it literally went from recording with Asia, not very happy with the setup of how, you know, Well, anyway, that's another state. It'll all be in the book. That's what I tell everyone. Anyone who does anything to me, I always say, well, it'll all be in the book. So
Can't see you in Asia. If I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't have the jewellery, that blue stuff, and turquoise, and I didn't have those shoes, those boots. Didn't have the hair, certainly not that. But it was I suppose it was the love of and the chops, and it came through. I keep saying this, but my friends seem to pass away all the time. It's the weirdest thing. So, the late great Nigel Luby, who's an absolutely phenomenal engineer. He was engineer for Yes on tour, and then also he introduced me anyway to. He actually engineered the beginning of Ian Brown's Unfinished Monkey Business, that debut album. I brought Nigel in, but he'd brought me into Asia. He'd recommended me to the lad Jeffrey Downs and John Payne, and I met Mike Sturgis then, who was playing for 21 Guns as well, Scott Gorham's group, and he was then drumming for. There was a swap over then from, Carl Palmer to Mike Sturgis. Asia was the last thing, and then I was teaching. I was saying that I wasn't, struggling financially, so I started teaching. There was a lot of kids asking their teachers to ask me in Shropshire, where I was playing a lot in Oswestry, around that region. I was playing in like a friend's band, Phil Beaumont, his name is, who was originally Mr. TC Electronic in UK. And playing with his band.
I remember him. Yeah.
Yeah, he was at Arbiters before, so you guys probably know him from Arbiters and a few other companies, but he's a pro audio dealer and distributor. He does Fon, I think, is one of his biggest products. So I used to go over there during the Simply Red days to buy TC Electronic equipment from him, 2290s, and I was using at the time 1128s. All top-notch gear. For professionals. So I had loads of kids in that area were asking their teacher, could you ask the guitarist, would he come and teach guitar at our school? So that's how I got into teaching, just because there was such a demand, and it grew from a couple of hours to the whole week, literally from 8 in the morning to 8 in the evening teaching. And then I got involved in the house music competitions, and then I got involved in the sports. I started teaching basketball, so this whole career of teaching. But I was knackered by 95. By 1995, I was absolutely knackered, and it was just a good job that Robbie J. Maddox, the drummer in the Roses at the time, came over to see me about helping them with demos for the, let's call it the Third Coming album, and to just help with playing guitar, because John Squire had vanished at the time. They didn't know where he was, so I did those early demos, and then it's all history after that. How I joined and Slash didn't. Because he wore leather pants and they weren't having it.
I think there might have been a bit of blue jewellery as well.
There might have been a bit of, turquoise involved. Yeah.
And then the Roses thing obviously then works its way into the Ian Brown thing. Because you're with Ian through that period, aren't you? Through the period of the Roses. Yeah,
so the demise of the Roses in 97 immediately went into Ian Brown's solo career. Only because he was the only guy that I could actually get in touch with and gave me a straight answer as to, was the band over? I was kind of relieved, that it was. It was a burden. I tell you, it was like a burden like no other. And it's not even the same as somebody joining Guns N' Roses, because it wasn't one person they brought in. Guns N' Roses brought in 3, and all top players, Buckethead and so on and blah, blah, blah. And the guys. But with the Roses, it was just John Squire, as you know, is one of the biggest icons of British guitarists of the 90s, 80s, 90s. Iconic players and iconic players you can't replace. It's like trying to replace Jimmy Page in Led Zepp or something. It's just not gonna. It's like me in Asia, not having the hair and not having But I mean, it's not the music per se, because I mean, obviously I didn't write the music. That's one thing to say. That was music that related to him. But music has never been a problem for me. You know, like somebody says, "Hey, you want to join our band?" and gave me like 20 songs to learn in a week. It's not a problem, because that's how I learnt to play as a child, 7 years old. You know, putting a piece of vinyl on and keep playing that bit until I'd learnt it. And because that's all the tools you had to learn music in those days. You know, you had your record player, and you just had to listen and learn by ear. So it became my way of playing that. I would play by ear. And so the Roses set I learnt in a week, because it was, hey, we had tapes then, you know, little cassette tapes and DAT players and stuff. And I could guess. I watched, I don't know what many videos I could see at that time. There was certainly no internet you could use. So, but my ears were telling me where the hands were. And I never used a capo, to tell you the truth. So every song which had a capo on it, I actually did inversions of the chords and learnt to play the songs without a capo. It was a great challenge. But what I did learn was that there is no other guitar like a 1959 Gibson Les Paul. And there is no guitar like a 1959 ES345 or a 62 Strat or a 59 Strat. Because that's why I inherited when I joined the band. The band owned this almighty collection of the greatest guitars in the world. And I carried the 59 Les Paul around with me in a beat-up old case, the handle almost hanging off, and getting on a plane with it all and running around with it, even in my neighbourhood where it's easy to get mugged for just buying a new pair of sneakers. And I'm carrying a 59 Les Paul around with me. It was an unbelievable time. But it did teach me about what those instruments are really about, and what vintage amps are about, and how to create tone from instruments and amplifiers of character, and how your own character comes across. I mean, I think that's what my development as a player has been over the past few decades, has been about identity and how to develop, nurture something from picking it's almost like Queens of the Stone Age, where you pick very unique amplifiers and guitars to create unique sounds within a song. I'm more a song and a band person than I am, you know, a technical, you know, kind of soloist, I think. We all go through phases. I went through my Ibanez phase in the 80s.
I was watching Rick Beato's channel yesterday, and he had that,
great channel.
What makes this song great? I don't know if you've watched any of them, man.
No,
I do. I watched that one where they played a Led Zeppelin song, and he brought in friends to play.
I watched Angie
soloing.
yesterday. So we brought in friends to play on Angie and try and break down Nicky Hopkins' piano parts and stuff like that. But it just reminded me, because I watched the one on Queens of the Stone Age yesterday.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Talking about all the different tones and stuff like that. It was utterly fascinating. I mean, I discovered it because I was I'd played 4 chords on the guitar, and I went, "Oh, that's a Tom Petty song. Which Tom Petty song is it? Oh, and how does it go after that?" So I just like typed it into YouTube, and it was Free Falling, and it was kind of like
Right.
and it what makes this song great. So I ended up watching it and being absolutely hooked. So I've watched loads of them, but there's over 100 now, so I haven't got time to watch them all. So I kind of pick and choose the ones that I'm interested in.
There's beautiful depth in that information, though, isn't there? It's almost, to me, it's the equivalent of when I used to buy vinyl and you used to read all the small print of the producer and who played which instrument. And now you've got people like him, and also, I've forgotten the name. There's another guy similar to Rick Beato who's a session musician, Tim Pierce, that's his name.
Oh, yeah.
And then Tim Pierce will share information about the songs and sessions that he's done, and give you the insights of, oh, I was actually the original guitarist on the first Bon Jovi album. You know, it wasn't even Richie Sambora that played the guitar solo on Runaway, their first single, and it was him. And he'll, you know, show you in his setup, this is what he played and how he created the sound. But those band albums, that to me is so interesting, you know, the insights into how they create those sounds and tones, and sometimes there's no thought process behind it. I think sometimes they get a bit too anal about it, when a lot of the greatest bands, some bands that I love, there was no technical aspect to it. It was just purely the fun of playing an instrument and getting out of the house and hanging out with your mates, and you just plugged in anything and you played anything. And you didn't learn anything, or scales or whatever. You just kind of knew a few notes and you played. And there's a lot to be said for that, That's what I find. I mean, YouTube is so kind of, I don't know, the insights you see on YouTube are fantastic, but the parts that are often outweighed are the parts where the valuable experiences of musicians who are not very technical, but they are influencers themselves just by their character alone, expressed through their songwriting or band or influence on their band. And even if they owned the van, or the old drummer owned the van story, even if they were that, or they were the inspiration that always there on time. There's all these contributions make albums, make great bands. I love those stories. Yeah.
Have you watched Homeschooling with Tom Bukovich or something like that? Put homeschooling in, but with a K. He's a session musician from Nashville, and he just sits in his garage. He's literally in his garage with his iPhone propped up, and just talks like, well, you can play it like that, but no one really plays it like that. Just do it the easy way. But the thing is, he's phenomenal, and it's so relaxed, and so it's like the YouTube hit of lockdown, really. Homeschooling, and it is. There's no production values to it at all. The only thing is, he's always got a different mug and a different guitar T-shirt on. Phenomenal.
All I can say is that I don't know that channel, Jason, but I do understand that YouTube has so much to offer, so much information, but it's such a relief to watching BBC and Channel 4 and ITV. I mean, it's like you hoped for a musical program. You hoped for a program for me, it was like with guitars in it.
Yeah.
And then when they did have something like that, the cameraman was always, the producer was always on the wrong camera. So every time there was the guitar solo, it was Thin Lizzy on top of the pop. So the camera would switch to the drummer or the singer during the guitar solo. And that's been life since 1980s.
Do you know that's a classic bit of Motorhead on the Young Ones. That when it goes to the guitar solo, they're not focusing on it at all.
That is true, though. I mean, I don't know how many times I can count the number of frustrations of, wanting to see music and see even the instruments and get a little glimpse. Because in those days, it's not like YouTube now where you get to see, you get Premiere Guitar or whatever they're called, showing you the rigs. That's it. That rig share kind of thing. Then you were lucky if you got a little glimpse even of the guitar and when they're playing. And it was bad enough that these cameras were shifted. The producer was telling, camera 3, and it's not even on the guitar anymore. And you're like, oh my God, is this really happening? You used to throw things at the telly. I don't know. So I'm really, we're blessed. YouTube is fantastic. What a platform. Anything you want to see. I mean, I'm a big basketball nut, so I watch a lot of NBA and college basketball on YouTube. Watch a ton of guitar stuff, but I have my own purposes. It's like I do my research on YouTube, what apps I want to buy, and I look at them and people demonstrating them and so forth. But I've got my own purposes for them. One thing I do find with YouTube is that a lot of the people that I am listening to, what they're playing is as bland as hell. For me personally, it's absolutely not the way to teach people to play guitar. It teaches all the wrong things. But I don't know if the focus is about bands anymore, if it's more about enjoying playing an instrument at home and buying a product. It's all about retail, really. The influencers are given the equipment by the manufacturers or the distributors. The influencers show off, these products, and consumers at home, are stuck at home and buying the products. But it's not really got anything to do with creative well, there is creativity. Sorry, I'm wrong in saying that, because all this equipment, whether they be apps or pedals or software, whatever it is, combination of things, they're creative things. It's how you create with these objects.
I just always more enjoyed being in a band. I mean, I've got.
That's because you're old.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a load of guitars, a load of electric guitars behind me. But actually, the guitar I play most of the time is my acoustic guitar, because it's just me on my own at the moment.
Yeah, but these belong in a museum, don't they? Guitars are almost like museum things, and we think that they are current and so forth. But, kids are armed with iPads and Ableton or controllers of forms. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with them. I think they're fantastic. I'm a believer in it. I believe in any instrument that is creative, any person who's been creative, and the tools, whether it be a computer or an iPad or a phone or decks. I think they just kind of point at that we're getting lazy in the sense that as musicians playing an instrument and so forth, we're probably not making as much effort as, say, like producers and DJs are, where they're taking their whole production on stage now. They're creating on the fly, and they're using technology because it now allows them to synchronize things easily. And we're kind of like, we've just been like digging the garden and not even put on any, changed our clothes and turned up at the gig and gone, all right.
Yeah,
we're getting paid first before we play.
That was grunge for you.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about the average blues band in the pub, really. It's like the minimum effort in a sense. And I think that young people are making so much effort now to give you production on stage, which far kind of overrides the way that a lot. I mean, I can speak for guitarists in the sense because I know my own, pitfalls, and I think how much effort do we actually make to give a performance, to give people an experience and value for money, for that ticket that they've bought, if they've bought a ticket.
I think as we've discussed many times on this podcast, being a huge Kiss fan, I was always quite aware of the need to put on a show.
I know it looks like I'm going to take the mic, but I think I told you this before, Jason. Yeah, I learned to play guitar. Over my rock phase, I learned to play guitar from what I call America's AC/DC, which was Kiss, from Double Platinum. That album. Every riff.
And the thing is, what's wrong with firing rockets from the end of your guitar? There is nothing wrong with that.
Hey, you're talking to a man with lasers in his acoustic guitars, let alone his electrics. And I've got LEDs, thanks to Martin Sims, because I was an early believer in his products. And I've got LEDs on all my instruments. Not all my instruments, but certainly on my Godins. I have. And lasers that I even got those. I've got the prototype laser rings that he invented, which were just like laser pointers sat on each finger, 10 of them. If you ever came to an Ian Brown show, you were blinded by me as I walked on stage. So they used to go all the way down to the end of the hall. Some of the shows I remember the most are when I could see the lasers through the smoke, the dry ice, and you can see the beams all the way to the back of, Middlesbrough Town Hall or Brixton Academy, and it's great. I mean, it's a funny thing because no matter how much you practice your instrument, how much you play, the thing people remember the most are the stupid things you did. So I remember meeting Liam Gallagher and Noel backstage at they came to the Brixton Academy show, and he was seeing. On the girls from, was it Eternal or not Eternal?
Yeah, it was Eternal.
I thought it was All Saints.
It was All Saints. Oh no,
we're going to show how old we are now. But
yeah, it was
his
All Saints,
girlfriend-
wasn't it?
But anyway, we'll call her she. She comes running over and goes, "Oh, you're amazing! You're fantastic!" Oh, sorry, I don't mean to take the pick of that. Extract the urine. But she just came and said, "Oh, you're amazing!" She said, "Oh, those lasers and those green lights coming from your guitar." And I was like, "It had nothing to do with my playing. It just had to do with lights." So I put a light on my head. I suppose that would have made a
Yeah, but
difference.
I genuinely think, I might have said this before on one of the podcasts, but I genuinely think the average non-music, non-instrument playing public, they listen with their eyes first and foremost. So if you put on an amazing show, it doesn't really matter. As long as you're competent, you can't be terrible, but as long as you're competent with an amazing show. I mean, look at Kiss's career. They are competent musicians. You know, they're not Steve Vai or Eddie Van Halen or anything. They're just competent musicians. But their show elevated them far above any of their contemporaries, certainly in the US at the time.
I mean, that's production, isn't it, as well? It's thinking about the whole picture, thinking about giving people value for money, or maybe they're thinking about merchandise. I don't know, because that's what...
Well, they certainly thought about merchandise, didn't they? Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
they
Kiss,
did.
certainly.
I mean, the lead singer sells so many products, doesn't he?
Yeah. I'm just going to
dolls
take
and
us
whatnot.
back briefly. Was it Nicole Appleton?
Yeah.
Yes, it was Nicole. Yeah. Nicole came running over to say, "Oh, you're fantastic. That was great. That all those green lights on your guitar and the lasers." And I was like, "Okay." So after that, I built a mini bar into a Marshall cabinet.
Nice.
Full blown 4x12. Not that poxy little thing that Noel carts around. You know, it's like go in your lounge. This was a full blown 4x12, and it also had rope lighting. And when you opened it up inside, it was just going round and sequence patterns. I used to throw out bottles of water into the audience, and then pack shows and just throw them out into the audience. But I had a row of, like 3 4x12s. That's all they would allow me at the time. And so we had two 4x12 genuine ones, and the middle one was the fridge. What else did I do? Yeah. Anyway, let's not digress into all the...
No, but I
I'm
like
going to
the
show
thought
you
of
one
having
thing,
a bar
actually.
on stage.
Sorry, Jason.
I just like the thought of having a bar on stage.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a guy who doesn't drink anyway. So having a minibar for your bottles of water is like a bit overkill. I didn't let anybody else put any stuff in it either. But I think one of the craziest things, I'm going to take these headphones off. I'm going to vanish. And I don't want you to talk amongst yourselves.
All right.
Though, to be fair, as a podcast goes, that really is a bit shit, isn't it?
He's back now.
Oh, he's back.
So what we have here, it's good I've got things at hand. You can see my name scratched on there. Is a proper touring flight case, as you can see. And it's even got a lock for the clasp. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you can see, very professional.
Yeah.
In my favourite colour, purple. And I had this.
It's got a flight case for plectrums.
For not any ordinary plectrums, Aziz plectrums. Well, actually, I'm using these now, which don't have anything on them, which are these Jim Dunlops. But anyway, so I've got some crazy things to protect my my pleckies. Hey.
Well, honestly,
we've got massively off track, but we're virtually back there because that gig that the Gallagher brothers turned up to, then I'm assuming that was an Ian Brown gig.
Yes, it was. It was Brixton Academy.
Right. So that
Noel and I were actually playing on the greatest tour of 2000. I think it was 2008 or 5. I can't remember. We both, because we'd co-written songs. I'd written songs for the greatest, and he'd written songs for the greatest. I think his was Keep What You Got. So we were special guests on that tour, because I wasn't actually touring with Ian at that time, because I was writing with Paul Weller. So I'd met Paul Weller through the Ian Brown experience, and Paul and I got on really well. And I'd already knew Chopper, Steve Craddock, we call him Chopper, and Steve Craddock from Ocean Colour Scene. So I knew the band, got to know the band, but I got to know Paul through Steve White. I'm kind of digressing again here because I was in a band with Steve White and Mick Talbot, both of them ex-Paul Weller band, and his band was a band prior to that with DC Lee, Style Council. So this was the Style Council guys, and we formed a band called The Players. You can't actually see it. I'd have to mess around with the camera, but actually, let's be unprofessional and do exactly that. That one up there, that green thing.
Got you, yeah.
The Players. So that's Clear the Decks, the album Clear the Decks. And that all came about through meeting Paul Weller, meeting Steve White, his drummer, and then Steve introduced me to Damien Mancello, Ocean Colour Scene, and we formed this group, which was like an instrumental group. We released 2 albums, this and the one after it, which was instrumental in terms of almost like the Meters. We had this idea that there would be no vocalist, and if we didn't have a vocalist, we would have room for everyone to play rhythmically or solos, whatever it may be, but in the kind of, that Meters vein, really, grooves for people to enjoy, and you could relax instead of trying to fit around a vocalist. And you know how frequencies change when you take an instrument out. It was fantastic, great time. And then Paul himself, what a lovely guy, would invite me to come and write with him all the time, and just to hang out. And I used to love showing Paul, because I'm always experimenting with new ideas and tones and sounds and learning new things from other instruments. I don't listen to that much guitar. I listen to a lot of any other instrument, whether it be koto. I love working with Japanese musicians and their traditional instruments, and Indian, or across, Eastern Europe and so forth. Some very unique instruments, and I like to adapt the guitar to play similar to them to develop a sound and tone. And I'd show Paul one of these things, just sat outside, some recording studio or wherever, and I know that he'd go and show that to Noel or somebody or other, and Noel would probably be like, "You've been hanging out with that Aziz again, haven't you? Hey, stop." And we're not going to swear on this program.
You can if you like.
Stop. Show me that shit. He goes, nah, listen to this. Nah, listen, right? And I'll be like, off you.
So that's Paul. So when did the Marillion, when did the Steve Hogarth thing fit in? Because that must have been...
That was way back after the Roses.
Yeah, that must have been...
So the Roses ended 97. I was licking my wounds around Oswestry, hanging out with my friend Phil Beaumont, and he was friends with Marillion. He's a very good friend of Marillion's and helped them in many ways, and they've been recording at his place sometimes. And I think Steve was having a break, Steve Hogarth, lead singer, in Oswestry, and I met him through Phil. We got on, we were chatting away, found that we had nothing in common, and grew to be the best of friends. Well, I mean, I'm like, at that particular time, yeah, right, mate, how's it going? Yeah, top balls, mate, yeah. And he's like, hi, man, hi, Aziz. And, he's flower power, and I'm,
Not.
I'm not going to do it. Down. Well, no hi-fi in the dressing room, mate. Sorry, you got to have seen the Soccer AM to know that one. But no, just musically, there were connections all across the board. But there were so many differences. It was funny because I'd be going on about Thin Lizzy or something, or Rush, and be like, I can't stand them. I hate them. And he's such a lovely guy. We had so many things, musical ideas. I think it was more about the encouragement he gave me. He heard my playing when we were having these jam sessions or whatever, and he showed me so much respect and inspired me, to continue in these directions. That I saw, what a great guy. And then it was just him that came up to me one time and said, listen, I put this band together, a bunch of superstars. I mean, you know them, don't you, Anthony?
Yeah. You got Clem Burke.
At that time.
You got Clem Burke.
Clem Burke, Blondie.
Yeah.
Chucho Meshan, bass, from Eurythmics and Pink Floyd and God knows what else. Richard Barbieri from Japan, the group, and also Stephen Wilson's old group.
Porcupine Tree.
And then...
Dave Gregory.
And Dave Gregory, XTC, what a lovely guy and what a fantastic guitar player. So this combination, and also on cello as well. Stephanie Selby-Jones. So it's a real eclectic mix. And the album had already been recorded, Ice Cream Genius. But Steve just says, I would love to have you on this tour. It'd be great to see what would happen with this chemistry between you guys and what you do. And wow, they were the best times of my life. I got to say, really were the best times. I enjoyed them. There was no pressure, no anything. And I loved the level of the professionalism and the whole ethos of... It was just a superb time to hang out and learn so much from all these great musicians and the Marillion guys as well, meeting them and seeing what it's like to be everybody contributing to the growth and the life of a band. And I don't care what I don't care what anyone says. I think you're great. But, they were literally like that. They were just. I mean, for God's sake, they were in Guinness Book of Records for business ideas and. So many aspects that they're super intelligent guys. I got the utmost respect for them, and I don't care what anybody else says. I think they are great. They've certainly shown the way and paved the way for the future for people on Patreon and Kickstarter and so forth, and YouTube and the way that it is, and all the way that they've nurtured their fan base and supported their fan base, and the fan base has supported them, is kind of the prequel to what we're seeing today. And they exist because of their fan base, but they deliver, what the fan base wants or what would like, and always thinking new ideas and innovations. And they're just people you can learn from all the time, and that deserves respect. Let alone being fantastic musicians. I mean, Ian Mosley, for God's sake, I remember buying Gordon Giltrap live when I was young, and Ian Mosley was the drummer. So I was like, wow, this is Ian Mosley. When I was a kid, it was like he was.
They're old as well. They're just such lovely guys. They're just such lovely people.
All of them, every single one of them. Whether it's Rothers or P or any of them, they're just all of them, the whole band. Lovely people, and their entourage, the crew.
Yeah. It's a proper family.
It's a family. I think that's you're right, Anthony. That's the word, family.
That's one of those bands that's gone down in history. The H Band has gone down in history as being a really special, little kind of project. Because I mean,
it's gained its own following, loyal following.
And I know there was a few musician changes through the course of that band, but I mean, you
and additions,
yeah. And I mean, because you I believe you introduced Andy
Dalbir Singh Ratan, the tabla player,
the
maestro tabla player.
Student
of Pandit. No, he's not a Pandit. He's a Shri. Sukhvinder Singh Namdari.
But you threw that into the mix, and then later when there was a drummer change, I think you introduced Andy Gangadine, didn't you, to H as well for those shows towards the end?
I mean, I can't remember if I did or didn't. I knew of Andy anyway. Obviously, it was the Manchester connections, the M People, and whatever in the bands he was playing with. And I always spoke highly of Andy. I don't know if it...
H remembers you did, so...
well, there you are. I mean, I can't remember the conversation, but H will remember it. And then I also introduced... it seems to be drummers I always introduce. Mikey Wilson as well. He came in for one spot. He's from the band Texas and other bands as well, Jazz Defectors and Manchester bands. But and then obviously... Dalbir Singh Ratan, the tabla maestros, that's percussion, so he always seems to be I'm recommending. But it's been great working with Dave Gregory. He's got such a great collection of guitars. He's a lovely guy, It's great to hang out with.
No, they're a really special band. Really special band.
And Mr. Barbarian, the Prince of Darkness.
Well, yeah, I met him for the first time just before Christmas, and he has a certain dark aura about him.
We wrote a tune a few years back. It's still not finished.
You played me that when you were writing it.
Yeah, it's
still
a
not
real
finished.
prog tune. We started in 2011 or 12 or something. It's just waiting to be finished. It's an epic tune, but one day we'll get it finished. And I did do some things when Richard and obviously H did their solo kind of, not solo but collaboration EPs and things like that. Contribute some guitars.
Yeah,
to that
you played
as
on one
well.
of those, didn't you? I remember.
Yeah. I forget the things I played on, actually. It's not quite like Tim Pearce in that, because his whole livelihood is about sessions, but I have played on albums and in bands and things. It's like, I forget I played on Manic Street Preachers single as well, Let Robeson Sing, on one of the tracks on the single itself, but there's the remix. There's lots of things. Some things I rather not mention as well. So.
Yeah, but there's the channel, mate. There's the channel. There's the. I mean, how many episodes of that could you do? I played on this.
Oh, forever.
Well, yeah, they are then.
Forever.
That'll keep you busy.
Did all the unsigned as well. Yeah, be forever. The funniest things are like if you saw me with like Rebel MC. I was playing a double neck Steinberger at the time, M series. So it has a white body, and then has the two necks, like the Steinberger necks, and baseball cap, Tashini tracksuit, chewing gum, bouncing up and down. I was a junglist then. Drum and bass and jungle. I mean, they were working with Tenor Fly. Again, the late Tenor Fly. Oh, man. What such a talented lad. So what a loss. It came from that kind of London scene of Double Trouble and so forth. And Mike West, who did, Street Tough. And Janet Sewell was the vocalist on that, who was from Simply Red. She was the West Indian backing vocalist at that time, during the second album, Men and Women, which we called Blokes and Sheilas on the Australian leg. Just for your information.
So we need to think about wrapping this up, because we've been banging on for an hour already. I can't believe it's gone by quite
Marathon
fast.
chatting, isn't it?
So what are you up to now? What's filling your time apart from the 10-mile walks and carrying the dog around?
Well, I mean, you got to do something to break the monotony of, sitting in a seat and staring at a screen, or sitting. You've got to get out. So I do that, but really what's for me, I'm releasing music. I've started, under Aziz Ibrahim. You can find that on Spotify and all the usual digital channels. But I say Spotify because I've embraced it. Digital releases. So although in my tender age I should be doing the Marillion thing and releasing limited edition vinyl and DVDs and kind of maximizing my monetization, that would be the best way to go, but being stupid, I decided to pursue learning a new trade. So as you can see by my beautiful MV7 microphone, that I've upped my game in terms of, I started to look at broadcasting. So I looked at the frame and how can I improve the picture. So I got into learning about broadcasting, watching YouTube day after day after day to work out how I can share information, almost like a new phase. So what I want to do is kind of learn a lot more about podcasting, like you guys are doing, and you're doing really well. Full marks.
Thank you.
And all that. And but I want to learn about podcasting, and I want to learn about just sharing content creation, which the things you taught me about actually, Anthony, when you were at Shaw. So I do listen. I watch a lot of gamers, YouTubers. And I started to divert funds from equipment I own into broadcasting equipment or into content creation, because I believe that now, the way things are, I need to release music. That was the first change I needed to do. It's been ages since I've actually released anything. So I put out my first single, The Key of Three, a few months ago. I intended to release every month. It's not happened that way because I just haven't set myself up in the right way or made it efficient. I mean, I generally use a Line 6 Helix, or I use my Kemper Profiler, or I use an iPad with Amplitude, IK Multimedia's Amplitude 5 now I'm on. So between those things, I can record quite easily, and I use IK's kind of IRA HDs and things, or I use the Helix as a audio I/O, and so that I can record what I want to record straight away, grab the instrument, and then. But it's finishing things. That's the thing. It's getting to that finishing point and then uploading. And at the moment, I'm uploading through like DistroKid and Ditto. And I'm trying different avenues and seeing how it works. And I've been testing it. So there hasn't been consistency. And that's where I'm learning is about. See, I mean, you could probably tell me more about this. But the fact is, I do think about how professional broadcasters and content creators create, and I'm trying to learn those trades. So since we went under in March, I've been learning about these things. It's been an enjoyable process, but I've been just changing my game, as you can tell by my frame, this picture, the equipment I'm using, and I don't know if you want to show any of this stuff, even though I'm still using my original
Focusrite.
Focusrite.
Oh, the folks at Focusrite, they'll be over the moon about that.
So, I mean, yeah, but this is because I'm an iPad user, you see. So, I mean, the iPad's over here at the moment, you know, it's in the chain. Dare I move it even? So, it's over here with the audio share on at the moment. But that was the other thing I delved into was about apps, because I like sharing with young people who always ask me about recording music and how to create music. So I always turn them towards the phone and the iPad if they've got one, or an Android phone, and about how to make music with devices that you already have, or you've got a contract, or you pay as you go, or wherever. And they're just hundreds and hundreds of apps. I must have about 300 apps on there just for music alone, let alone the video making apps and the whatnots and things. So I can't really say that, hey, you know, who can say they've been on tour? Not been on tour. Making music, yes, I've started making music. Releasing guitar music, because I think most people who know me, who want to hear anything I do, would probably want to hear the guitar. So even though I am making kind of EDM music, I've learned a lot over that, and got back to, actually, because I mean the soul R&B hip hop thing, my early days, comes back into this now. So I'm making electronic music, and I'm also making guitar music. I'm going to do consistent releases, I hope, now. And at the same time, you know, it takes a lot learning new apps and things and how to use them. So my production skills have got better. But field recordings, I mean, I watch channels like... I'm more interested in people like Heinbach. I don't know if you watch people like Heinbach. So they're very creative German music makers who use, like, it's about tape and about the disintegration of tape, and about tape speeds and how, you know, you can warp sound in a way. So I look for apps which are very good at doing things like that. And Bambros in Holland is a typical guy who makes fantastic apps. And they've, you know, it's like you can spend £300 on hardware, but you can buy that for $9.99 on an iPad or something, or a phone. So even though I've not made a lot of music, I've spent a lot of time during this, you know, pandemic learning. I don't even say retraining, because that kind of ties in what Rishi was saying.
Don't go there.
Musicians need to retrain.
Don't go there.
But I have been retraining anyway, because I thought to myself, if this continues like this, how am I going to be productive? I needed a new skill set. So I embraced the digital world, and I said, right, how can I make music? I'll need to learn how to do this. I'll need to learn how to do that. I need to buy a decent camera. Or I diverted funds because I didn't have the funds to do it. But But then I'm also working with the Arts Council. I've done 3 arts projects about making music and bringing music into cultural spaces like museums, art galleries, and wherever it is, libraries even, and making them accessible to young people. Or I just remember as a child thinking that these places are not for me, they're for the elite, and I want to make them accessible. So I'm doing a lot of cultural programs. I'm working with Lancashire County Council at the moment with the Heritage and Learning team, about to launch this thing called Musician in Residence, which is a first, that instead of an artist in residence, that you would have a musician in residence in a museum or in several. I'm going to be across the whole of Lancashire, from Helmshire to up to Morecambe or even further, Carlisle and down to Preston, and working in museums and art galleries and libraries and creating whatever a musical curator would curate, I suppose. So that's the challenging part. And my 3 Arts Council projects have been about exploring my own identity and about how I can create music. I mean, at the moment I'm working in quadraphonic because of it's just been the new technology I've been using, digital technology like Line 6 Helix and their power cabs. Plus, I can run 4 of them and run multi-channels because of plugins or the Helix itself, where I can run channels out with individual effects or AUV3 plugins to create quadraphonic sounds and tones. So that's been my experimentation over these past few months, to develop sound in that even not just 3-dimensional. I like to do 4-dimensional, where the person is moving through a space and the artists involved in the sound or in that band are spread across 100 yards. And the way that music would change over that space has to be thought about, how the music would continue and how what the experience is for the listener. So I kind of vanishing up my own arse as well during this period. But there's so much to learn and so much to explore. Like Jason says, these channels on YouTube are just chock-a-block full of information and or inspirations to find your own thing. And that's what I've been doing, really. Obviously not travel, but a lot of learning, a lot of research, and making music. My track, The Key of 3, is on Spotify, and a lot of places anyway that you can see. But there will be a follow-up track to that, and I don't know what that's going to be. I've got a few to choose from, but that's it. Release music, doing these artistic kind of projects, cultural projects, and a lot of mentoring. I work with UCLan, and I got an honorary doctorate from Salford University, so working closely with Salford Uni and working closely with UCLan as a leader in residence there. And there's probably things that just don't occur to me, but the other thing is buying more and more equipment. Like, I'm trying to work out how this microcosm works at the moment, and this is like, I order it from the manufacturer himself, the person who makes it. And it's just great to see new products out there. I think, if anything, the guitar pedal world has suddenly blown up, and there's some great products coming out. And I'd only see those through YouTube, because the actual person who made them will be on there, and influencers will be using that equipment. And I'm fine. The writing tools, I'm looking for writing tools, creative, inspirational tools. So at the same time, I do spend a lot of time doing that, looking at what can I sell and what can I buy.
What's the where's the best place for people to hook up with you? So where would you direct them towards? Anybody who wants to keep track of what you're doing? What's the...
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, because it's the kind of question I would ask myself, as in, how do people find me? Where do I want people to go? I always ask myself these things. So I've started my, musically speaking, I suppose Spotify is the place to go, Aziz Ibrahim. And Aziz Ibrahim Music is where I'm on YouTube, where I'm going to launch a lot of content and hopefully, create videos with information in them that are from my own experience and perspective and my journey, and share that with people. So it'll be YouTube, but Facebook is probably the busiest place for me, at Aziz Ibrahim Music again. Don't go to my personal profile page, Aziz Ibrahim Musician, because that 5,000 limit, there's no point of it. I can't add anybody. So, my music page on Facebook, Aziz Ibrahim Music, that's the best place. Yeah. And then my website is aziz.co.uk. Most things I'm on, Aziz Ibrahim 56 on Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and the same, I think, even on... I'm on Twitch, I'm on Discord, I'm on, you name it. I'm sat there with these young 10, 11-year-old gamers in the middle of it, and pretending I'm as good as them. Watch me on Fortnite. And but I learned so much from them. I learn so much.
Well, look, we'll ping a load of links up on the show notes. We do a little playlist to go with the episode anyway, so we'll put the new material on with a selection of other bits. Mate, it's been a pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Thank you for your time.
An absolute pressure, eh? Yes, the hospitality you've shown me has been fantastic.
And on that note,
on the lighter note.
Well, look,
the news.
yeah. Let's talk about vaccinations right now. Listen, it's an absolute pleasure. Hopefully, catch up with you real soon when we can actually get out and about. I mean, it's only 25 miles down the road, and not that we could even go that distance. So
always welcome. It's great to see you both. I mean, like I said, I want to see Jason at the shows. Really, guitar at his shows. Yeah,
there are no other shows.
They don't exist. They pale in significance. And yourself, yeah, But I mean, I'm glad to see that you guys are doing this channel. I've not watched the others yet, so I may change my mind. But at this moment in time, and it's a great combination. Yourself, Ants, Jace. I think wish you all the success.
Thank you.
With
Thank
your
you very
channel.
much.
Thank you. Listen, mate, you take care, and we will speak to you. We'll speak to you really soon. Thanks for listening to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. If you've enjoyed the show, then please remember to hit the subscribe button and share with other like-minded souls. For more information about 9 to 42, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram at the Guitar Show UK. This has been an A Short Stories production.